Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, Sessions is out. Also, the V-Team takes a look at the worst person in the world. And Kay Ivey wins bigly.
We gonna celebrate and have a good time. Everyone around the world, come on! It's a celebration. Celebrate good times, come on.
Salute to you, Governor Ivey. Ain't no step too high for a high stepper. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by the V-Team. Welcome all.
How's everybody?
Hello, hello.
The election, Jack, is in the rearview mirror, and Kay Ivey won a stunning victory.
She certainly did. And any delusions that Democrats had of winning any statewide office were put to rest on Tuesday night.
I was shot and stomped on.
Well, yeah, it's sort of like Stomp That Sucker Flat and that country song by Nate Jones and the Nine Nasty Nose Pickers. I mean,
it could have gone better.
Yeah. But, you know, the interesting thing, and we'll kind of try to break this down a little bit, Kay Ivey is the first governor to break 1 million votes since, I think it was Guy Hunt. And before that
went well. Turned out great.
Turned out great. And conversely, Walt Maddox got around 670,000, which is about the numbers that Robert Bentley got when he won in 2010. So, Josh, it was a huge turnout.
Yeah, it was very good. I mean, you saw the early numbers, and I think a lot of people, especially on the Democratic side of things, felt pretty good about things. You saw the big turnout in the bigger cities, and you thought, well, there could be a chance of this. But as it turned out, the Republicans voted too, and it followed along the same lines. While the numbers were larger, the percentages were roughly the same as they were in the past.
Well, Republicans didn't vote, in my opinion, in talking to a lot of other people, because there was a lot of interest in these statewide races, because they weren't. It was driven by Donald Trump. Yeah. And he's in charge of the Republican train, and it appears that everybody's on board. He went all over the country, and where he campaigned, most of those Senate candidates were victorious.
Well, I think that it had to do a lot with the national atmosphere overall. I think that you created an us versus them, and Trump is very good at us versus them. What conflict he is, he's one of the best at that. He doesn't mind it at all. He kind of thrives on it, and so I think he set up this conflict nationally there, where you had a response from the Republicans here, and this is a Republican-dominated state, and they responded to what was a national. It wasn't a blue wave, all right, and so it wasn't just overtaking like it was in '94 for Republicans and or anything to that nature. But there were 8 million more votes cast for Democrats across the country than there were for Republicans. So there were a lot more Democrats that showed up. Just in this state, we know. The numbers.
The problem is there aren't enough Democrats. Yeah. And when we broke down the numbers, it looked like Susan.
You're talking about in Alabama.
In Alabama. Yeah. When you break down the numbers, Susan, it looks like about 67% of the Republicans voted straight ticket. Of that 67%, 62% of Alabamians favor Donald Trump. And if you look at that 67%, 57% or thereabout said that they were voting for Donald Trump. So they were taking it out for the team.
Right, and Trump was very effective here. He really drove the Republicans to the polls, and it worked.
No, he was. I have no idea why, but he was. I mean, you look at the things he's done; it's not helped the state at all. But overall, you're right in that. And should that be an option on the ballot? Should that be an option to vote a straight party ticket, to just bubble in one thing and it count for everybody?
Y'all sure liked it for 40 years.
No, I didn't. I've never liked it. I don't think that should be an option for anybody at any time. I don't think you should go, no one should vote for all Democrats. All Democrats are not good. All Republicans are not good. You should pick out and know who you're voting for, or just don't vote for that particular race.
Well, and that's a good point, Jack. I mean, and maybe it was good for the goose and good for the gander, but I think, and I would have to take Josh's side on this, that at least a large portion of these folks who voted on Tuesday had no idea who they were voting for. They just knew that they had a particular letter.
Well, I think that's true of straight ticket voting on both sides.
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
But when you set up this national conflict, as we've said that Donald Trump has done here with this, or how the country is, I think that leads to a tendency to take a side, almost a team, like it's an Alabama versus Auburn sort of a vote at that point, where you're not necessarily voting for the individual players involved and who you think is going to govern the best.
I'm going to say this: if Brett Kavanaugh had been treated with a little more respect by Democrats, I think that was a huge factor all across the country, and even in Alabama, people were still very mad about that.
Yeah, I think we wrote a piece right before that said, people were mad about Brett Kavanaugh. People were going to vote. 62% of them liked Trump, and everything. All the ingredients were there. I mean, Kay Ivey did a great job of steadying the course. There's been no scandal, and people like that. But if you look at the numbers up and down the board, this was a straight ticket election. Nobody picked out somebody. Nobody. I mean, Will Ainsworth, the lieutenant governor, got almost 30,000 more votes than the governor, Susan.
He did, and this was a very excited electorate this time. I mean, there were only two races in the entire state that had any fight to them. I mean, the governor's race, it was pretty quiet. I mean, there was no real fight other than the debates. The lieutenant governor, there was no real reason to energize the vote there. But yet, because Trump, went and made this a national issue.
Yeah. Well, we got about 1.5 minutes left, Jack, and there was great prediction that Judge Bob Vance out of Jefferson County was going to really give Tom Parker a run for the money, and he spent nearly $750,000, and I think Parker may have raised less than $30,000 and didn't spend much of that. Vance did pretty good, but he still didn't win.
All the Doug Jones people were so hopeful that Vance could win. But you can't just run a campaign saying I'm not Tom Parker and win. I mean, he had no substance to it.
It didn't matter.
I know
it didn't matter. It didn't matter what anybody said or what anybody did. They didn't vote for Tom Parker.
Roy Moore all over again without the child misconduct allegations. Okay?
Well, I don't think he has a horse.
Yeah. Right. He didn't have the polls. I would like to see that if he did have one, but
I just don't think it mattered for anybody. I don't think I don't think anybody right now, if you went out and talked to Republicans about Tom Parker, I don't think that they necessarily voted for Tom Parker.
Those numbers were higher in Vance's case than the traditional.
He was the highest vote getter on the Democrat side in a statewide race.
Yeah. So we're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back with more news and opinion.
You'll never guess what 400,000 people in the U.S. were using when they crashed their cars last year. No, not this. This. Distracted driving will kill you. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
$20. It won't buy much in the way of Christmas cheer. Yet it means plenty of hope for the homeless. Your $20 feeds 10 at the Jimmy Hale Mission. The more you give, the more we feed. Help us nurture those with nothing else and show them the true spirit of the season. To give, please call 323-5878 or visit jimmyhalemission.com today.
2/3 of drivers who died in car crashes chose to ignore this warning. Seatbelts save lives. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. Susan, on Wednesday, after the votes were tallied and the House increased, the Republican House majority increased its supermajority, McCutcheon, Speaker of the House, current Speaker of the House, came out with a statement, and he didn't take a victory lap.
No,
I mean, he congratulated everyone on their wins, but he came out and instead said, here are a number of things that we as a state need to address. Mm-hmm. And he says, this is our mission. Our mission is clear, and we must do this work. And I know we've talked a lot during the run up to the election that there haven't been plans or haven't been this or haven't been, but McCutcheon laid out very clearly what he felt were some priorities.
He did, and they are priorities in the state, and that's one of the things I love about McCutcheon. He's ready to go to work. Whenever he shows up, he's always ready to go to work to get something done for Alabama. He talked about infrastructure. He talked about public schools. He talked about the security in public schools, which are all things that really are important right now. And I think if he can get, the House can get their stuff in order, that maybe we can address this coming session finally.
And he talked about, Jack, about making sure we have ethics laws that have the sting of justice to them.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, look, whenever you think about it, at least it was refreshing. Okay? Are you jaded and bitter?
I'm very bitter and jaded about ethics. Because there ain't none, okay?
I know.
No, I mean, it's kind of a noble thing to say what he said, but guess what? We got to put some money behind all this. Huh? Where's it going to come from? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, it's not a Monopoly game in every home, but I mean, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it?
That was a question that someone asked several times over the course of the campaigns that took place before the election.
And forestry and all these other folks, fighting any kind of.
You got to have a plan.
If you start by stopping taking the money out of Roads and Bridges Fund to prop up the general fund, that'd be a start there.
Well, you mean the judiciary?
Yeah, it's probably the judiciary. I'm sorry. Well,
that's because they wouldn't fund the judiciary.
Yeah, they don't have
okay. It's not rocket science.
Hey, look,
they're all cowards. They're cowards, in my opinion.
I'm like Jack. I appreciate what he said, okay, and I appreciate the tone in which he said it. All right, but
very conciliatory.
But there is no plan to govern this state. There is none. All right, the people that you have elected, overwhelmingly, have no plan to govern this state. They have no plan to fix the infrastructure. They have no plan to fix the schools. They have no plan to fix health care. None. The only thing they were for was being against something that the Democrats were for. Well, and there's nothing on their side to bring in the money that Jack says we need. And we all know we need it.
Well, I do know this. I know that McCutcheon has been working on this infrastructure plan for several years. I also know that he's working on a smart budgeting solution. They know they're going to have to raise some kind of taxes. They get that. But I'm just saying, at a time where other politicians were yay for our side, McCutcheon at least came out and said, hey, here are four things that we need to get done.
I'm very happy he did that, and kudos to him for not taking the victory lap.
Yeah, because at one of the first meetings, I think, after the victory, I heard coming back out of it that really just the first half hour was a bunch of backslapping.
Oh, yeah. And then we have a governor who won re-election on jobs. Sugar, I brought jobs. Well, great. What are you going to do from now on? We heard none of that.
No, we don't have that.
And Ainsworth at least had the guts to say, we got real problems, and I want this state to be progressive.
Well,
and he's willing to work for it, too.
And
he was willing to go to work for it.
You know what? There's just a couple of things you can always say about Will. Mm-hmm. Always bald.
And sometimes loud.
I found him to be more loud than bald.
Compared to you.
I like Will.
Yeah.
I like Will a lot. And I think, as I said in print, he is my favorite Republican that was running for statewide office here. And, you're going to have to do something. All right? Everybody wants the state to succeed. Okay, that's the whole goal here, is to try to move us forward in some way. You can call it a progressive plan or whatever, but you're going to have to come up with money. And how are you going to get it? Because let me tell you, as soon as somebody pops out and says, we're going to have to raise your taxes, we're going to have to fix property taxes, the next thing that's planned are attack ads from other Republicans to bring them down in the primary.
Well, and the thing is, you know what? They need news organizations like ours that absolutely tell the truth and will expose the BS that's in the back rooms.
100% true, but where the truth has to start is with them. And they need to stop telling people that all this low tax things that's taking place here are the greatest things in the world. There is a point where you've undertaxed yourself to poverty, and that's what we've done.
And we were talking about infrastructure. The news organizations need to start educating people on what is needed. Like, for instance, we need a gas tax. They want to do it about 9 cents. But if you talk to the leading municipalities, they've done studies that say in order to accomplish what you need to do, it's going to take 35 cents a gallon.
We're going to have to raise revenues in other places. They're going to have to be bold. They have to do it. I tell you, one of the best pieces of news.
But we're not going to have a lottery.
No. And, I don't know that ship has sailed, but, right now, we'll just see. One of the bright stars on the horizon is that Mike Hubbard's case is now before the Supreme Court, what they call the cert. The Supreme Court, Josh, can either accept to hear it or just go and send him to jail, right?
I'm pretty sure it's going to be the latter at this point.
And probably sooner than later.
And I'm pretty sure the Chief Justice's race had a big part of that. But, look, this is the same argument they've been making all along. And I think most people who follow this pretty closely, the attorneys and stuff, felt like the appeals opinion that was written there pretty much made things easy for the Supreme Court, that this was written basically for them because we can't trust them to write anything, God knows. But I think that it's there before them now to just accept that and move on.
And I think this happens, Susan, probably sometime around the 1st of December.
That's what we're hearing from people we're talking to, DAs and lawyers and people we're talking to around the state are estimating.
Would it be bitter for me to say, what a lovely Christmas?
God knows he gave us a couple of lovely Christmases, so good on him.
All I want for Christmas is Bubba and the Bunk.
Is that bad, Jack? Well, it wasn't good.
Especially for Bubba.
I don't know how I feel about that. He is a husband and a father, but he knowingly did wrong, and he made money off of his office very, unabashedly.
Well, I understand compassion. He is an evil SOB. I'm happy he's going to jail. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back with more news and opinion and more SOBs.
Yeah.
You'll never guess what 400,000 people in the U.S. were using when they crashed their cars last year. No, not this. This. Distracted driving will kill you. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation. 2/3 of drivers who died in car crashes chose to ignore this warning. Seatbelts save lives. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. Susan, I know without a doubt one of your favorite people on the planet is State Senator Dr. Larry Stutz. Not
Dr. Death, we refer to him around here as, but let me just give you an example. You know, he was in a race with Johnny McMorrow, and Johnny Mac's been around for a while, but wanted to go on up into the Senate. There was a video that went around the day of the election where a sitting state senator was trying to intimidate a 17-year-old volunteer.
You mean Larry Stutz was trying to?
Yes,
yeah.
Larry Stutz was actually trying to intimidate a volunteer at the polls by going around and taking pictures of her, to the point they ended up calling the police to him.
Now, if I remember correctly, didn't one of Stutz's supporters, Josh, throw a cup of coffee in the face of this 17-year-old?
They did. Look, it's terrible. And despite this whole red wave of things that happened here in the state and everybody voting straight tickets, somehow Larry Stutz got about 50% of the vote.
Yeah.
So even other Republicans were like, I'm voting straight ticket. Except for that guy.
They even moved the girl from one polling place to another, and they followed her.
Well, the funny thing to me was, when you look at the video, he's talking to the black police officer, and he's like,
Well, you realize she's on state right away, baby.
And he's like, and then when he goes over to the white cop, he's like, well, I hope we didn't cause you.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
It was just awful.
It was terrible. But anyway, as they used to say, Larry Stutz, the worst person in the world.
And you got him back in the Senate. Oh,
yeah. Well, they hate him over there. He's one of those guys that everybody just cringes when he shows up. You know,
almost as bad as Brian Taylor.
Well, hey, now. Jack?
Yes, sir.
Our old friend Craig Ford is out of politics for now, it looks like, after many years.
Yeah, and Craig's a good guy. Maybe he should have run as a Democrat. I don't know. It's hard to win as an independent.
Yeah.
Very few people have done it.
Well, and there's a lot of people that don't understand the ballots where you could, and we kept bringing this up, where you can vote straight ticket, say vote straight ticket Republican, and then go over and vote for a Democrat or an independent. People don't realize that. I think a lot of people in Etowah County was concerned about this from the beginning, voted Democrat thinking they were voting for Craig.
Well, you know, Craig's as conservative as you come in Alabama, 100% A+ rating from the NRA. And I mean, he's not, I mean, he's got his issues and all that. Craig's been a great public servant for the people of Etowah County. He lost the race, Josh, to a newcomer from Cherokee County. He's a young man that lives at home with his mother and father. I think he works at the local church.
He's a young thing and cannot leave his mother.
Only you would think of that. He is a single man. He's looking to come to Montgomery. And when they interviewed him on television the night of his victory, you know what he was concerned about?
What was he concerned about?
The borders. He wants to protect the borders, Jack.
The borders of the state?
From those lotteries in Tennessee and Georgia.
We don't want any of those
Or might need to give them a damn map,
from those immigrants coming up from the Gulf of Mexico, maybe.
Well, we don't want any of those Georgians slipping over the line.
You know, we wish Andrew Jones all the luck in the world down there, but Andrew, you can't do a thing about the borders from the State House. Maybe he thinks he's going to the U.S. Senate where he can fund the border wall, but I don't think that's
well, he's
happen.
elected, so.
Yeah, he's elected.
So.
Well, we've got a few minutes left.
He's a church organist, lives at home with his parents. You do the math.
What was that friend's name of yours that was down in New Orleans?
Jason Grace.
Jason Grace.
I was going to go there.
Oh, Lord.
A lot's been made about President Donald Trump asked for the resignation of Jeff Sessions. Jeff Sessions at one point in Alabama was one of the more popular, if not the most popular conservative in the state of Alabama. He has lost that favor since he did not do Mr. Trump's bidding. And now he is out of office, and what happens next? We don't know.
I'm really surprised at that because I thought maybe, all right, he survived this long, whereas most people who didn't get in Trump's favor were ousted. I thought Jeff would last. He's a genuinely good person and a nice guy. I know him personally. I've known him for a long time.
I've seen his work.
Well, I was surprised how quickly Republicans turned on him for recusing himself, as was stated by what his job requires, what the Justice Department.
It's quite the irony. I got to say, it's quite the irony that Jeff Sessions lost favor for not being shady enough. Look, I think what he's done as AG is terrible. I think a lot of the civil rights rollbacks are awful and it'll take years to get over with. I do think that what happened with his resignation was awful as well. I think that he did the right thing in this case. I think that he was supposed to stand there. He was supposed to recuse himself and allow that investigation to go forward the way it was, unimpeded. And I think you see the scenario that's playing out as soon as the Democrats took the House and they have some subpoena power to investigate some things. We have a whole different ballgame now, and that's the reason why Sessions got run.
Well, and what is interesting to me, and I guess, Susan, you'll have your take on this, but Sessions here went from being one of the most popular to the least popular Republican, and yet the day that he was forced to resign, you had glowing press releases, just battling for attention on the front page of every major news publication in the state. We must have gotten 10 or 15 praising him. And I don't see anything wrong with that. I'm just saying, is there something two-faced going on here?
There are people that support Trump who are mad that Sessions got treated this way.
Yeah, okay.
Well, it's a bad move. It really is. Just like in the Hubbard case, Luther Strange had to recuse because he had accepted money from Hubbard. This was Jeff Sessions doing his job. It's kind of the equivalent of Spencer Collier's firing for refusing to do something illegal for Bentley.
Well, I have mixed emotions about it. I understand both sides, and I'm not sure where I really come down on this.
Yeah, and
I'm
we're not
sure
here
Jeff
to
will
debate
land
that.
on his feet because he's very well liked by his colleagues in the Senate.
I wish him absolutely all the best. I think he retires. Maybe he goes and does some lobbying work, but his family is in the D.C. area. He's got a nice life. He and his wife up there. Why suffer the indignities any longer, Susan?
Absolutely. They've really put him through the ringer for the last year or so, and it's
been terrible. It's been awful for him.
I love we have our own Ron Williams on the set.
Must have been awful for him.
Race. Everything.
All right, well, we're going to have to leave it right there.
He made it that way, not me.
All right, one moon.
One moon.
I don't mind taking that role at all.
And everybody that watches this show knows who won.
I like one.
And as I always like to say it one more time, I will say, thank you for watching The V. You watch us because we watch them.